Welcome to this event about digital body and this new piece of work that we have produced called Convergent Pulses. It's been a challenging but really exciting collaboration with Alexander Whitley Dance Company, the Parasol Project in Oxford, some researchers in the Department of Physiology, Anatomy and Genetics at the University of Oxford, and with Abel and Robin from Flat 12, who have produced this mesmerising film. It all started, this idea was to host another piece of dance work called Overflow from Alexander Whitley as a follow-on from an event that we ran a few years ago, around 8 minutes, which looks at the time it takes for sunlight to reach the earth from the sun, which is 8 minutes. And the piece of dance was about astrophysics and blending that with choreography. The piece we wanted to show was called Overflow this year, which looks at data and how that's used and understood. And there's a show reel that explores some of Alexander Whitley's projects that I'll show in a second. The piece that we've got to share with you is working with a group of young people. Some are disabled, some are not disabled, and some researchers who are exploring the physiology of a developing embryo, and that the heart is the first organ to be formed, and they're looking into the mysterious process that causes that heart to start beating in a way that starts life as we understand it to be. So the dance work that has been put together has been developed with the researchers, and it's been the project has been funded by the British Science Association and UKRI, with support from the Arts Council of England, which we're really grateful for. So I'm going to play the show reel for Alexander Whitley Dance Company to show you some examples of what they've done, and then we'll have an airing of the new piece called Convergent Pulses, and then we'll have a brief Q&A session with the people who have been involved in the project. So that gives you an example of the sorts of things that you can do with dance when you're not in a COVID pandemic. The new piece of work we've got to show is finding a way through that, and what we've achieved together is to allow young people, or anybody actually, to kind of create a dance in a way that is physically separated, and they've been brought together as a digitally connected artistic product called Convergent Pulses. So we're going to play that, and after that we'll have a Q&A session about what's happened with the researchers, the choreographers from Parasol, Alexander Whitley, and Abel and Robin from Flat 12, who've made the film. So we've just watched, that was a great video. I hope you enjoyed it. So all I want to do now is just have a brief chat with some questions from the public about the process that we went through to get to make something so beautiful, using individual dancers to explore a scientific topic. So Alex, I'd just like to know how the digital body project had developed to be able to accommodate this sort of thing. So could you just talk a little bit about how the digital body project has come about over the past few months?
Sure, yeah, well, it kind of started on a bit of a way down when I was leaving London to get out of my small flat with my daughter and partner. I grabbed a motion capture suit as I was on my way out, not quite knowing what I was going to do with it, but through a conversation with a past collaborator of mine called Memo Akten, we agreed that it could be an interesting thing to make an open source project to kind of experiment with the kind of possibilities of working with motion capture technology. So I started, I saw it as an opportunity, I guess, to, delve deeper into exploring an area that I'd been really interested in for a long time and have done a reasonable amount of work within. And also as an opportunity to, try and build around a remote form of dance collaboration. I guess when lockdown hit, there wasn't, all of our expected work of the company was cancelled, and there was no possibility of working with my dancers. So I saw this technology, I guess, as a route to a different kind of collaboration, enabling me to exchange ideas and collaborate remotely with people and hopefully uncover something new. So it's great to see how the project's developed. I had some really amazing contributions from people like Robin and Abel along the way, and through conversations with them and other people, I guess ideas developed for the project. And this film in particular was a really great way the project to think about the diversity of bodies that the project can include, and I guess stretching the limits of what we're doing in terms of the way that we were able to collaborate. So in this case, we obviously used videos of the young people dancing, and we're able to extract motion capture data from them rather than using the kind of motion capture suit that I had with me. So I guess it's just goes to prove how far and wide the kind of access to this this kind of work in technology has come, and it's great to see the quality of the film that Abel, Stephen, and Robin have been able to produce, even though none of us have met each other or been in the same place. It's all happened distantly, and it's really exciting that a project like this can happen.
Thank you. I think that kind of comes on quite nicely to asking Sophie and MJ a little bit more about the process of involving the young people as the dancers. And there's a little one here, look, there's a little mover. So could you talk, Sophie, MJ, could you just talk a little bit about how this is quite different or similar to what you would normally do with Parasol Dance Group dancers?
Yes, Parasol, we run a Saturday dance class. It's 2 hours on a Saturday that's been running for, I think, a long time. MJ will tell us how long. Years and years and years. And then obviously when the pandemic hit, it was cancelled, and we tried to carry on doing online classes. But Parasol also run summer activities, and they decided to go forth this summer and host some summer activities for teens. And we were part of that summer package of delivering dance somehow within the COVID-friendly setting that we had at the Wolvercote Young People's Club. Our Saturday classes are normally raucous. We've got loud music, we're all in a circle, we're copying one another, we're shouting, we're dancing, we're high-fiving, we're sharing snacks. So a huge departure from that to be working one-on-one with young people, to be in a different venue, to be working with the same person maybe for 20 minutes and then a completely different person comes in. We were also working with young people who, most of them actually don't normally attend the Parasol dance classes. So some of them weren't really sure if they even wanted to dance. So very different. And then in how we were delivering things. And then also we had this really interesting backdrop of the research from the scientists that we were trying to incorporate into the way we worked with the young people, or the choreography that we produced with them, or the way we structured the sequences. Normally, we would just make up whatever dance we wanted on a Saturday. And now we have this slightly different way of crafting our ideas and our inspiration for movement.
So normally it's very social and quite spontaneous.
Yeah, well, actually, I would say this project was more spontaneous because it was entirely self-selecting. We had 15 young people on either day, 15 young people on the day I was working and 15 young people, I think, on the days that MJ was working. And we didn't really know who was going to come into the hall and who was going to want to dance. And MJ had a sort of recurring group of people that kept coming back. And I had a constantly evolving different group of young people each week. So I would say it was more spontaneous. Our normal sessions, we plan them and we know what's going to happen and we follow this routine, but this was, you know, chaos in a great way.
That seems like a good word for the moment. So the chaos that you were trying to kind of contain into this piece of choreography is, it kind of moves quite nicely into the work that Tomoko and Shankar are doing at DPAG. And so Tomoko, Shankar, the chaos that you're looking into of the coordination of the kind of embryogenesis of cells in a mammalian body, could you just talk about how that chaos and sort of almost magic of a beating heart sort of starts up? And that was the inspirational kind of hook for all of the movements that Sophie and MJ were working on. So Shankar, maybe if you could say a few words about your research.
No, absolutely. So I mean, in our group, we work on how embryos develop in really the very earliest stages. So the heart is made up of muscle cells which help it beat. But in addition, it has many other cell types as well. And these early cells, they start to form very early. I mean, in the human, probably as early as 18, 19 days after fertilization. So very early. And so this is well before there is anything like an actual heart-shaped structure. And these cells are spread some distance from each other. They start, you could almost, again, imagine them awakening to the fact that they're muscle cells. And so they're isolated from each other and then they start twitching. And then some of the cells in between them start become completely muscle cells. The technical term is differentiate. And become completely muscle cells, and then they also become capable of contracting. So when you see this type of disjointed contraction across what's going to be the heart, when you look at it, it looks like just random pulses of contraction in various regions of what will be the heart. And then this kind of, it almost magically resolves into a nice uniform contraction across the entire forming what's called the cardiac field, the heart, the area that's going to form the heart.
Okay.
So it's very visually, it's very evocative, and I think it lends itself to being interpreted in the form of dance, and it was lovely to see what you guys were able to do with it.
Because I actually did think of the animation reminded me of the first time I saw the calcium signaling, like doing the pulsing out of phase and coming together. So it was really, really nice to see the dancers' movement interpreted into the animation and then whole thing put together. Yeah.
So the way it's obviously the film started, maybe we'll move on to Abel and Robin in a second. The way the film started with a single cell, if you like, and then it sort of doubled and then turned into a dozen and then more and more and more. And you could see the when this collection of particles had turned into a human-like figure, it's then sort of beating like the blood might flow around a body. So Abel, Robin, is that what you were intending to do? How did you kind of come across with, how did you kind of conceive this idea of producing this animation?
Yeah, that's such an amazing compliment to hear that actually, because we like read your paper, we see some of the imagery that you've put in there, and like have the movement of dancers to work with, which has this like a relation to the heart and like tries to interpret these concepts. And then bringing those together, seeing really how can we get these like interpretations from the movements sync up with this beautiful imagery of this little like heart forming. And that was really like the starting point of our research. We were just making like these body shapes. Then we were really looking at your papers and really thought like, how can we like really get that feeling of this organization coming together? Because I think that was the most evocative to us, this idea of how these singular cells are kind of like communicating with each other, and like this differentiation that happens, like becoming something that in the end is so recognizable as like this beating core of everyone. So that was really what we tried to create within the whole film, not just in like the start where we really were doing it on this individual kind of cellular level, also then later creating these dances that would sometimes sync up, sometimes kind of move together, move apart, and create different shapes for like this heart in different stages, which I think is also from the papers that we saw. And then in the end, kind of trying to resolve it, also deal with the fact that all these individual dancers so beautifully like were working together and becoming part of this. We were talking with Alex of how can you create kind of idea of a group of dancers while still retaining the individuality. Really thought about like in the end trying to bring them all together but still celebrating their differences to kind of resolve that.
Great, thank you. So I think there was a question from the public that was about how the motion capture technology was being used in this instance. So in the past, maybe people are using these mocap suits, using a special kind of motion capture room. And the question here from the an audience member was, how is that being done now? And so were we using that same motion capture technology, or what was the process? So maybe Alex or maybe Robin and Abel, you could answer that. But Alex, you were helping develop this, so maybe you could.
Well, I can start maybe just by saying that, yeah, the kind of technology that I've been using has been, or during lockdown at least, has been a motion capture suit, which has the advantage of being able to, you can take it pretty much anywhere and record movement with it, which is different to the kind of full rig, camera rig in a room to do motion capture, which uses the kind of balls, the white balls on the body that most people would probably be familiar with if they've seen any of the kind of behind the scenes footage from Hollywood CGI, for example. But yeah, the great thing about this project is we were able to use quite a new online-based motion capture solution where you can post videos on it, and it uses artificial intelligence to analyze the video and send you a motion capture file back. So that really kind of liberates things. It's not as accurate as the kind of suits that I've been working with, and certainly not nearly as accurate as a full motion capture rig, but the accessibility is just amazing, really. So maybe Abel and Robert can say a bit more about how they then, the process they went through to take those videos and transform them into the images that we film.
Yeah, sure. So we were building off of the experiments and tests we were doing earlier in the lockdown when we were working on the digital body project with Alex. So those tests and experiments were with, as you said, they were with a full mocap suit. But the end result that you get out of it, which is this digital skeleton that has the whole dance recorded into it. And you can move backwards and forwards through it, and you can position it in space. That's what we're getting out of the same. We're getting the same product out of this this AI produced motion capture. And it was a process of taking that and bringing it into Cinema 4D, which is a modeling software we use, and starting to experiment, bringing all of them, every single dancer's recording, and starting to trying to understand how do we firstly make it interact in the way that we have individual objects that start to coalesce and combine into each other, as shown in the final film, and also just how that happens across the timeline of the song. So we did a lot of storyboarding around the rival consoles for Autism song, which we felt was perfect for this project. It was really well selected, and yeah, as we've been talking about, it's the start with just singular cellular level, evolving into this full choreographed piece that you see the forms all combining and becoming individuals with their own character.
Yeah.
And
in terms of the mocap, what we basically get in is just a bunch of kind of twigs that evoke the human body. So there's a twig that says this is the spine, this is the top of the spine, this is the head. And then what we do is try to see how can we constrain different shapes around that? How can we play with kind of this balance between when is it like literally just a human, and when does it kind of evoke the human? Because I think that's the beauty of what we've been exploring with Alex in the digital body. Is like, you don't need a direct representation. Like, dance is more than just a human. Dance is about space, it's about energy, it's about this relationship between the bodies, between the space around it. And these animations are really good for exploring that. Just really going to a certain essence of what dance can be.
Absolutely. And without the current kind of COVID pandemic, we may not have done this, you know, and we've all been challenged to respond to finding ways to explore science, technology, art, dance, working in a community setting, trying to present something with a digital festival. It's a steep learning curve, and we're bringing together a huge amount of different skill sets and technologies, and bringing in artificial intelligence and human creativity and inspiration to put together something that's as beautiful and as mesmerizing as this digital body Convergent Pulses piece. So thanks so much for you guys. So Tomoko, Shankar, Sophie, MJ, Alex, and the crew at Alexander Whitley Dance Company, Flat 12, and the musicians that put together the awesome soundtrack. Thanks so much for joining this event. And of course, you can watch the video now on demand on the festival website, and you can enjoy it in your own time. So thanks so much for coming. Thanks very much to the panel for kind of being a distance, digitally connected group of people putting together a really great film. Thanks so much. Cheerio.